Hi, so I'd like to welcome everybody who has joined us today, the teachers, the pathway teachers, the students, and our special guest, Dr. Amanda Veri, who is here today to tell us a little bit about her career as a microbiologist at U of T. So welcome, Dr. Veri.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining us, especially during this time. I know you're super busy. You're going back into work. So it's we're really appreciative that you can spend some time with us.
Of course.
So we're going to get started with our questions, but how are you doing? How's everything going?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yeah. We're having really interesting time getting the research labs back open, but of course trying to do it safely. So having reduced numbers of people, but it's exciting to be able to do science again. So
yes, that's good. It feels normal now, right?
Yeah.
Getting back into routine. Okay, so we'll start with our questions. So in elementary school and high school, were you always passionate about science? Did you know that this was going to be where you were headed off to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I was always interested in science, but I think if you had asked me in elementary school or even in high school, if I thought I'd be a scientist, I don't even think I knew what a scientist was back then. I have nobody in my family who went into science. Very few people even went to university in my family. So I really had no idea what a scientist was or what careers in science would be. All I knew is that I liked taking science courses. I liked reading about things. And you really never have a limit of when you have to figure it out. I kind of just made every step at a time and just kind of continued. And in high school, really enjoyed my science classes. So I just decided to do it for university. And in university, I continued to enjoy science and continued from there. Yeah.
So you did apply to the science program in university, though?
I did. I applied to the program in university. And when you first start university, you're in a basic science program. And then I got to specialize later on into a research-based program.
Okay, so speaking of that, we know that you're a microbiologist. So can you explain a little bit of what you do in that field and what that means being a microbiologist?
Yeah. So a microbiologist is a scientist that studies microbes, which are small living things. And technically, I'm also a mycologist. And a mycologist is a scientist who studies mycology, or the study of fungi. And that's because my research looks at small fungi.
Yes, that's really cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool. So what microbiologists do is we learn anything about different kinds of microbes, but in particular, my research focuses on trying to better understand how different kinds of microscopic fungi cause disease and how we can learn about that and use that information to help treat different and kill different fungi so that we can protect people.
Yeah, that's a great segue into your zombies discussion. So if anyone hasn't had a chance to watch that video that was linked in the slideshow, you talked about how microbes should get more credit for creating zombies. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about your high school journey and your education beyond high school?
Yes, absolutely. So I did high school at Father Brazani High School, sorry. And I really enjoyed that there. And from there, I went to McMaster University to do my undergraduate degree. And I did a degree in biochemistry. And I also did a co-op program there, which I really enjoyed. And I recommend for everybody looking at university.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, co-op is amazing.
No, it's fantastic. I got to work in many different places during my degree, which helped me to make money, but also to try out different kinds of jobs that scientists can do and figure out which ones were best for me. It also just allowed me to have work experience so that when I finished, I had more experience than some other people, and that was really helpful.
Yeah, those are great points, Dr. Veri, about co-op. Like, it's such a great experience. What was it about U of T that made you want to go there? So you said you went to McMaster, but then you went to U of T to do your doctoral degree, and instead of doing it at a different university. So what was it about U of T that you liked? That's from Luke, that question.
Hi, Luke. So when I was at McMaster University, I started doing research and I really loved it there. I highly recommend McMaster to anybody who's looking for a place to do their undergrad. It is a fantastic middle-sized school, which I really loved. It had a great community. Its campus is located kind of all together and is pretty small. So it really felt like I knew everybody on campus. It was really fun. But then when I got serious about research, I wanted to go to a university that had more resources, had more options for research labs, and had more capabilities for teams working together. And you kind of get that more in big schools. So U of T has such a vibrant research environment. There are over five different hospitals filled with scientists that all work together, as well as my research is based in the Mars building, which is an innovation center for Ontario. So we get to also work with different entrepreneurs and learn kind of about the business side of science. And we get to be there with different companies who are also doing scientific research in an industry setting, which is really cool too. So I really went to U of T because there were a lot of really important researchers doing really great work, but also because they just had more options and people really work together, and it's a really great research community.
So it sounds like you picked picked McMaster and U of T based on how you are as a learner and what you're interested in gaining out of that experience. So that's pretty awesome. So Angelina from Sir Richard asked, what does a typical workday look like? And how do you organize and plan out your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as a scientist, I currently not only do research in the lab, but I also help to supervise a bunch of students in the lab, graduate students and undergraduate students, and I help manage the day-to-day activities of our lab. So my workday usually consists of a mix of both doing science and doing kind of administrative stuff as well. So for me, it's really super important for me to be organized, and so I plan out all of my days the night before. I often plan out my whole week on the weekend because experiments often need multiple steps that are every single day. So I really need to do the whole plan together and say, okay, what do I need to set up on Monday so that things are ready on Tuesday? And so a usual day, I'll come into the research lab and I'll check my emails, communicate with all of the members of my team and make sure that they have everything that they need and have the guidance that they need, and do any administrative stuff. I then start my experiments, and on any breaks, sometimes my experiments take long times and sometimes they take short periods of time. But between, I do things like helping the other students. We have a lot of meetings as groups or individuals to try and help make sure everybody has the resources that they need to succeed.
Oh, that's amazing. So a lot of skills that you needed to work with other people. That's important. So going into that, you kind of talked about it, but what are 3 important skills that a grade 7 or 8 student should focus on building in order to be successful in science or the science program in both high school and post-secondary? And that comes from one of our pathways teachers, Mrs. DiNardo.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing I would say is people should try to be curious and be open-minded. So it's always great to figure out what you're interested in. So have an open mind and read a lot of different things to find the areas that you're interested in. Take a lot of different kinds of courses. Like I took an accounting course in high school because I really wanted to figure out if science was for me or if I would like something else. Turns out I hated it.
That's a great suggestion, yeah.
Yeah, and I realized it wasn't for me, and that was great.
It's a good way to know, right? While you're in high school still, yeah.
Totally, and even in university, I did the same thing, even just to learn other skills to be more well-rounded. So definitely keep an open mind. I'd also say organization and time management are super important. The more you're in school, the more you're going to have lots of different commitments and lots of different assignments that you'll need to take care of. And so it's really important to have a way to be organized and to really know how to deal with the different tasks when you have so many things due at the same time and how to manage that. And learning how you study best and what's good for you. I think everybody has a different learning style, and that's okay, but we need to figure out what's best for us. And the last thing I wanted to say was just that both high school and university are both kind of like a marathon. They're not sprints, but they're a marathon. And it's so important that you understand how to build endurance, how to build self-care, and how to, deal with anxiety and stress, because it's so important that you look out for yourself first before you can even worry about it.
That's amazing advice, Dr. Veri. That's amazing. All of that. It's very true. Like everything you spoke about are the skills you need in order to survive, high school and university and post-secondary. So what is your most successful project? What are you most proud of? And that comes from Isabella from St. Emily.
Thanks, Isabella, for that question. So I think my most successful project that I had was a project that I worked on as a team. I love teamwork in science. It's one of my favorite things. And my favorite project, I worked with one of the postdocs in our lab, which is one step higher than a graduate student. And we worked together and we worked really hard, and working together made us more productive than if we had worked separately, and we got to just have people to bounce ideas off of. We got to work together and really get things done faster. And I think that was just so much fun. And it really shows that if you have good people around you that you work well with, you can get a lot done.
Right.
But what I'm most proud of is just, continuing on and being able to finish my PhD. I was the first person in my family to get a PhD, and that was really important to me and to my family. So I'm just really proud of that. And I'm really proud that I get to talk to you all and to share my love of science and hopefully inspire some of you to become scientists too.
That's amazing. And the communication you were talking about, how important communication is as a skill, because for teamwork and when you work with other people. So COVID time, this is sort of your thing. Does a COVID-19 vaccination seem imminent, or is it more probable that the virus will die down without needing a vaccine? So I know you've probably had a lot of discussion with your colleagues about that in the last couple of months. So what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that we absolutely will need a vaccine to be able to deal with this properly. And that's because it is possible to get herd immunity, which is a thing where if everybody in the world, or most of the people in the world, had already had COVID-19 and were protected against getting it again, then we would all be safe. But that would revolve most of the people in the world to get it and be protected, and that would be very difficult, and we actually don't want that, because that would negatively impact a lot of people. So I think a COVID-19 vaccination is absolutely important, and it's definitely imminent. So I did the research to find out all the information on what's happening, but I wanted to know that there are over 120 candidate vaccines that people are working on right now, and that's happening all over the world. And there's also 10 that are in human trials, because we make sure that the vaccines are safe before we can use them. So there's 4 in the US, 5 in China, and 1 in the UK. And what's really cool is they're all using different strategies. So we know that if one of them doesn't work, there's a good chance that one of the other ones will, because they're all kind of taking really different approaches. So I think we have lots to be excited about, and I think this will definitely happen. It's going to take a while to be able to make sure it's safe for everyone, and that will help, but I think it's coming, I promise.
Wow. That's interesting. So a question from one of our teachers: what research project are you currently working on?
Yes, that's a great question. So right now, what I'm working on is I have a team and we're working together, and what we're doing is knocking out every single gene in the fungus that we work on. So what that means is the fungus has many different parts in their DNA, and so we're taking little bits out of every single different part of their DNA, cutting all of them out.
Oh, wow.
And that really helps us to be able to figure out which parts are important for the fungus to grow. And if we can find out which ones are important for the fungus to grow, then we can then try and find ways to get rid of that part so that they can't grow, and that we can kill these fungi so that people aren't getting sick with them anymore.
And who came up with this project? Was it your team that came up with it? Was it like your initiative, or was it a directive given to you?
Yeah, so I work for a scientist who is my boss, and we all work for her, and she comes up with the main plans. But it was kind of something that a lot of people have wanted to do for a long time, and so we're kind of just trying to help out in that directive. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. That's great. So a question, how has your faith helped you while you were a student and today in your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that my faith is very important to me for guiding how I want to treat other people and how I want to be treated. And so every day I think about the people in my lab that I supervise, and I really try to be the best support for them. And I try to think about if I was having a bad day, what I would want someone to say to me, or if I was having a bad day, I'd want somebody to notice that I was having a bad day.
Yeah,
And to put their neck out and be there to support me. And so I kind of use that as, learning, using our principles of faith to help guide how I want to be as a person, and how I
definitely.
want to be as a supervisor and a scientist. And I also think often I feel like, some people might not think that they belong in science, but I want to show everybody that they can be a scientist too. I want to see who's not in the room when we're in the research labs and who should be there, because
That's
we need
amazing.
science. So, and
Yeah,
I think that's
you're
our faith.
Yeah, you're a great example of who should be in a science lab. A young woman, reaching out in different areas in her career, trying different things out, reaching out to students. It's amazing to see, Dr. Veri, that you've been doing all of this. So I see a nice little stack of very colorful microbes there in
Yeah.
little petri dishes. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And just before you do that, can you raise that mug that
Oh,
you
yeah.
were holding? Because I need the students to see how cool your water containers. That is pretty cool to have a
Yes,
beaker one.
my beaker.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so you're really into art, and I like that. That's very
Yeah.
cool. So can you tell us what's in those colorful petri dishes?
Absolutely. So what we have here is these are plates just like we would use in our research lab to grow our microbes, so we can do experiments on them. But what I've done is I've added food coloring so that they're pretty different colors, and you can see I can make them any single color that's possible. And what I've done is I like bringing these on different events that I go to so that students can learn and they can make art themselves, and they can see how easy it is to grow microbes. So what I've done is I've just taken some baker's yeast that you would use for bread. So it's just straight from my fridge, straight from the grocery store. And all I've done was take a Q-tip and dunk it in a solution of the yeast, and then I just draw on.
That's so cool.
But I draw on the plates and then give it some time, and then it can grow. And I know my art skills aren't that great, but
I see praying hands and a rosary there. That's pretty cool. You're very good as an artist using baker's yeast. So that's pretty neat.
I've been learning different techniques. So we also sometimes use paintbrushes. So this is one that I did of the sea.
Oh, yeah, it's the Toronto skyline.
The Toronto skyline, yeah, exactly. We get to do a lot of fun things. I love when holidays come.
Very colorful.
And I get
Halloween theme.
Lots of different themed items. This was my Christmas one. We've got some snowflakes.
So how long does it take, Dr. Veri, for it to kind of form its shape once you paint it with the bacteria or use a Q-tip or whatever the tool that you use?
Yeah, so it actually, it depends on the different microbe that you use. A lot of them grow within a day, so it doesn't really take that long. If I'm in the research lab, it usually takes a day. Sometimes if I'm at home, it takes longer just because it's not as warm here.
Right, so temperature matters then when you're creating these pieces of art.
Temperature definitely matters, yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. And you do this with your students as well then, right? You go into the classrooms, well, when we were going into the classrooms to do this activity with the students, they must have loved that.
Yeah, and it's really great because it's super safe. I know some people are really scared of microbes, and that's understandable because, they often do cause diseases, but we're all using only things that are safe for us, and so that students can play with. And so there's no harm at all. And it's just fun to see that microbes can be fun and they can be beautiful.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, for offering your time with us to share with us how important it is to have the necessary skills that we need to kind of move forward. And, sometimes we think scientists work kind of isolated on their own, but you showed us that that's not the case and that you actually thrive while working with other people and collaborating with other people and sharing ideas and being mindful of that. Thank you for talking about how important it is to be empathetic towards other people, to understand them in any career, especially one where you have to listen to very differing ideas and be respectful of those ideas. I think that's amazing. And I remember, just a little aside, I remember when you got your PhD, your sister was very excited about it. So yeah. I was excited that you were getting your PhD. So it's wonderful to see how far you've come and how dedicated you have been as a scientist. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you join us today. So thank you very much, Dr. Veri. And I just want to say thank you too to Mr. Canona, who's been kind of behind the scenes orchestrating everything, the Pathways teachers who have connected all of our students in our board to this interview, and other students can watch it afterwards as well, and to the students who may have been interested in science, still interested, are unsure. This is a great opportunity to listen to what a scientist does, and it's amazing. So thank you, Dr. Veri, for everything today. It's been amazing to listen to you.
Okay. I also wanted to quickly that if anybody is interested and has more questions, feel free to contact me at any point in time. If you Google me, Amanda Veri, you'll find my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Instagram, and just message me. I'm always happy to help anyone at any point in time. I'm happy to answer questions and be there for you.
I'm sure that students will do that, because a lot of students have questions about science. So it's amazing. So thank you so much for offering that as well. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.